So a few days ago, Robert Sterling joined my Patreon and requested the first Hostel film as his pick. And I've been wanting to cover the Hostel franchise for a while now. So Robert sparked that desire in me. So, surprise, you're going to get all three Hostels here for the price of one. Now, don't think that every freaking Patron review is going to be like that. If you just pick something in a series, I'll do the whole thing. I just had a desire to check them out right in a row. I've never watched all three right in a row. Now, okay, where to begin with Hostel? God, this is tough. The Hostel films, along with the Saw films, are some of the touchiest subjects in the genre for me, because I feel like people have either become total wimps or they just like to hate on something because it's cool to hate on, because what they're saying seems very contradictory to things that they've said in the past and in the future, present, whatever. So when it comes to this franchise and the Saw franchise, they're always, kind of deemed responsible for starting the whole torture porn subgenre. Now, I and a lot of people I know absolutely despise this subgenre name. I don't think it's fair, and I think the reason that I don't like it, if torture porn was used as just a name, I'd be fine with it. But anytime I've almost ever heard, now not every single time, but 99 times out of 100, every time I hear the term torture porn, it's used in an extremely negative way. To be like, oh, well, it's just torture porn. It's just garbage. Oh, I can't stand this garbage, this torture porn. It's never, ever, ever oh man, I fucking love torture porn. Give it to me. I almost never see that happen. So that's probably the main reason why I hate it. And number two is I feel like it's just this blanket statement that doesn't really illustrate what you don't like about it. Because listen, this is a fucking horror genre that we're talking about here, okay? This is a genre that has simplistic storylines and lots of graphic violence. This is what the audience loves. And then you take something that has a simplistic storyline, not even, okay, let's take it back here a second, because, I was going to say simplistic storyline, but, okay, Hostel maybe-ish, although, to be honest, it's probably the scariest storyline of any film I've ever watched. You go to a different country that you don't feel safe in, that you have no rights in, and you get taken into this dungeon-like fucking facility where millionaires, rich people pay to torture and murder you, and a company covers it up for them after they pay for it. And that's it. I can't think of much else scarier than that concept right there. And to be lured by beautiful women and shit, I mean, how many guys aren't going to fall for that? So, and plus it's men, are the preyed upon here, which you don't see a lot of in horror. But then on the flip side of that, with the whole Saw thing, Saw has some of the most complex storytelling in all of horror. So for people to be like, oh, it's just torture porn, that is a complete fucking knock and disrespect to a franchise that brings a very deep story with insane continuity. And people think it's convoluted and this and that, but I mean, you can think that, but it does flow, and they do tie up their loose ends, and there's not really any plot holes, and I don't know. I guess it just irritates the fuck out of me anytime I hear this torture porn thing. It just drives me crazy, because it's just they throw that at it, and they're like, there, that's it. That's my rebuttal. That's what I'm going to use as my reasoning. And it's care to elaborate? And yeah, okay. So Hostel. what is Hostel in a nutshell? So it's kind of like Eurotrip turns into a snuff film. Kind of. Except for, here's another thing I find very interesting about the Hostel franchise. It's really not that gory. It really isn't. Like, I've seen much more graphic films than this. Way more. This is always like put on these intense hardcore lists, and it's like, the concept is hardcore. What they don't show off screen is pretty hardcore. But what you actually see on screen, yeah, there's some. But the Killin' Bone Tomahawk, which is a fucking Western, is leagues more graphic than anything in any of the Hostel films. I mean, 10 times over. So it's very odd to me. Or watch fucking Mel Gibson's Hacksaw Ridge. Or Apocalypto. But Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge is one of the most violent films I've ever watched in my entire life. And it's a war film. And that's just it. You can get away with so much under that umbrella of like war footage. Like, as long as it's war footage, you can fucking mutilate people. Guys can be picking up dudes, limbless bodies and marching into battle with them as shields. Like, you can do whatever the fuck you want in a war movie, and they're like R rating. In a horror movie, you show a penis and it's like X. It's like, what? There doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it, but the horror genre is much more, it's much harder to get an R rating than in something else. Because I've watched a decent amount of action movies that have insane violence in them, and they get R's. And then these movies, even the unrated director's cut on both of these, you would think that Eli Roth shot like harder core stuff, and it just doesn't exist, not that I've seen. So odd to me, because I think that the Saw franchise has an incredible storyline, and now the gore in this later Saw franchise, like 4 through 7 especially, fuck, dude, the final chapter is way more graphic than anything in Hostel, by far. Just that, like, skinhead gang, the dude's back getting ripped off, the girl's face being mutilated, the guy's arms and face getting torn off. That one car scene alone is just insane. So I find it odd that this film is always brought up in, like, the hardcore, oh, it's just torture porn. It's like torture and nudity, and that's all you get. And it's like, yes and no. Not really. Now, are the characters douchebags? Yeah, sure. How many fucking horror movies have you watched where the film is filled with douchebags, you want to die, but you claim to love those movies, but not these? It's just a double standard. I think that's what I have the issue with. They're all about the graphic violence and the kills in the Friday the 13th franchise and whatever. They're all about the nudity in those movies. They're all about the fucking douchebaggy characters they want to die. Like, there's just no, there's no reasoning. It's just like, oh, I don't like it because of this. And it's like, but you like a ton of other movies because of those reasons. Well, I don't know. I just don't like this. Okay. I don't know what to tell you then. But anyway, so that I'll only do that on this review, so I don't have to redo it for all 3 of them. But my lord. All right. And another thing is, I just think people love to hate Eli Roth. Eli Roth is one of the most unjustly hated figures in horror ever. And I think it's because he got so much praise out of the gate. And horror fans were, I don't know, jealous, or felt like he didn't earn his cred enough. And Cabin Fever was this huge, split in the horror community, mostly down, thumbs down. A lot of down votes on that one for sure. I remember there was a time where Cabin Fever was like the most hated film I'd ever heard of in my life. And it was before I'd even seen it. And I didn't see it because I had heard it so much negative about it. I was like, Jesus Christ. And then it finally got so much negative. I was like, all right, I got to see this fucking thing. And I loved that movie. I thought it was hilarious. There's so many great fucking kills. That movie's more graphic than this movie. So, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Moving on. I just think that Eli Roth and torture porn in general and Saw and all that stuff, they're just hated to be hated. I don't think they have a reason. They're like, oh, they just substitute any kind of story, any kind of scares, and they just go for gore. And it's like, are the Friday the 3rd, like the later Friday the 13th fucking installments, the later Nightmare on Elm Street, are those really like scary? Were they going for scares? They were going for entertaining the audience and killing a bunch of people you didn't give a fuck about. That was what the franchise became, and people loved that shit. I'm just, okay, I digress. It just annoys me. Moving on. Quentin Tarantino having a hand as an executive producer in this, because it says it like right at the top, Quentin Tarantino. I'm gonna drop my notes to try to point this out. Quentin Tarantino, and then it's like presents. It's like little teeny tiny thing here. Same thing here. Quentin Tarantino presents. It's like whispering the presents and screaming the Tarantino. Of course, that's what's going to sell the movie. And I've talked to a few people that are like, oh my God, it's the worst movie Quentin Tarantino ever did. And I'm like, didn't direct it. Same thing, I remember people saying that about Transformers. They're like, oh my God, it was the worst film Steven Spielberg ever did. And I'm like, this is the risk you run of putting your name on the front of a box. People, of course, if you're a director, if you're a known director, of course they're going to think it's your film. Even though right below it, it says written and directed by Eli Roth. But, people don't know how to read. So, there you go. And Ole. Oh, I love Ole. Okay, so now, even though I come to like Paxton towards the end, because he's kind of a douche throughout. I don't like Josh at all. Josh is the character I want dead throughout the whole film. I'm just like, God, kill this pussy off. I can't stand this kid. He's just the worst. Throughout the whole film, he's awful to me. Now, do I really want a guy like that dead and tortured like this? Absolutely not. But in a movie, in the context of a film, you're just like, get rid of this character. I can't stand him anymore. Ole is by far, the best character for the film as far as like a personality goes and whatnot. Now, like, get into like who you want to look at, then you got plenty to choose from in this film and the next film and the next film. Man, is this film just, this franchise, should I say, just littered with gorgeous naked women. Eli Roth knows how to pick some beautiful ladies with some incredible bodies to bear all for his films. Holy fuck. These chicks in this film, my God. And he does that like in a lot of his movies too. You've got that in pretty much everything he's ever made. You've got beautiful women taking their clothes off. And it's never ever a bad thing. Can I reach that? Oh my God. It is ungodly hot in here. Anyway. Man, but Natalia, of all the chicks, yeah, Natalia. Whoo, doggy. And I like that Eli Roth makes a cameo in here in the little pot bar, whatever the hell they call those, little marijuana fucking joints, when they're in Amsterdam. And I like Eli Roth as an actor, as the bear Jew, Donnie Donowitz. Good stuff. And I feel like that's why he stopped making movies for a while. Probably because he was also getting hated, but he wanted to work with Tarantino. I don't blame him there. And now, I've never been to the red light district, but is that really how it is? I highly doubt it. This looks like a film version where there's girls like dancing in the window, like guys go by window shopping and girls are just sitting there like, come on in and fuck me. And there's just like doors you walk. This is total Hollywoodized fucking version of the red light district. I will be shocked to find out that that is exactly how it is. But I shouldn't say shocked. Very little shocks me anymore, but I'd be surprised. Let's definitely say that. But would I fuck a prostitute? No, I don't think so. I think like if disease wasn't a thing and you were like out with your friends and you were in Amsterdam and this and that, yeah, I'd probably do it then. But just the fear of getting something, even if you wear a condom, I don't know. A prostitute, that's a tough sell. That's a tough sell. Which I've always said, like, sexually transmitted diseases or infections, whatever they're calling them these days, or is that like two different things? I always, people are like, oh, it's STIs, and I'm like, those are infections. Like, that's not a disease. Like, it's the same thing. STIs and STDs, right? They're not the same thing. They are the same thing. Whatever. You don't want either. Whatever they are, I don't want any of them. But they just seem so fucking unfair. Like, you shouldn't be able to die or have a serious ailment from having sex. That's just always pissed me off. That's always, like, the worst thing. And when I say worst, please bear with me here, because I love my children more than anything. But what I'm saying is the worst thing that should ever come from having sex is children. Like, that's like, having children with someone you don't want is more of what I'm getting at. So the whole idea of STDs pisses me off. I know there's not that my anger is not going to stop them from existing, but they just anger me so much. I'm like, oh my God, we should be able to fuck whoever we want, and you shouldn't have to worry about anything but getting someone pregnant. But that's not the world we live in, unfortunately. I just can't say enough about Ollie. Like, I think he's so fucking fun. And his "Of Course My Horse," of course I picked up that slogan there for a little while. And just all the shit he does. He's just such a fun guy to hang around. And Josh, on the other hand, is this prude who's constantly starting shit and gets in a fight with this guy in a bar, basically. And it's like, dude, this guy would beat the shit out of you. That bouncer would beat the fuck out of you. What are you doing? You are a total pussy. And he's like yelling, I'm awesome out on the beach. Like, this guy is just asking to get his ass kidnapped and tortured. Seriously. Like, don't go over to don't act like that anywhere. But sure as fuck, don't go over to other countries where you're a fucking foreigner and start acting like a dickhead. Like, you are just asking for trouble. 100%. This is yet another film that's just filled with, morals and like Aesop's fables. You're supposed to learn shit from this. Don't go to other countries and get yourself in these predicaments, taking drugs with people you don't know and fucking passing out who knows where in Slovakia in the middle of fucking nowhere in Bratislava. And it's just like, what are you guys doing? You're out of your goddamn minds. I mean, trust me, I get it. Natalia and the other chick are fucking hot as hell, and I would definitely have sex with them in a second flat, but I sure as fuck would not be putting myself... I don't do drugs, though. I've never touched a fucking drug. I smoked pot a few times. I hated it, honestly. I don't like having, like... I guess unless you consider alcohol a drug, which, some people do. Then I was a full-blown drug addict at one point in my life. I loved booze. But I just don't like not having control of my body. And there's a lot of reasons, and one of them is something like this. Somebody being able to take advantage of you because you're so fucking stoned. You're so drugged out that you can't even fight back. You can't even protect yourself. You can't even wake up. And then you wake up tied to a fucking chair where Edward's salad fingers is, doing fucking surgery on you with his shaky hands. Yeah, no good. And then, I put lured by hot women. This would be my downfall. 100%. This is exactly why. I'd be like, and this just it. Like, when they're just, I don't know. I just don't feel like I'd fall for some of this shit. I really wouldn't. As much as I love women, as much as, like, I have an issue with, saying no and I have an issue with women. There's no doubt about it. But, like, there's certain situations I know better. I just know better. Like, I'm very intuitive, and it's just like, no, this is too good to be true. Something's wrong here. We need to get the fuck out of here. I'm not taking drugs with these girls. I'm not doing any of this. Even if I was into drugs, I'd be like, no, something's wrong here. No fucking thank you. I'm good. So, but, I mean, these guys are just, they want to have fun, and people do this shit all the time. This is not, like, a fantasy scenario. This kind of shit happens all the time. There's so many tits in this movie. Oh my God, there's so many. There's more boobage per square fucking inch of frames in this movie than most, porno I've ever seen. It's crazy how much tits. And it's like, that's a bad thing? People are like, oh, torture porn. Oh my God, there's just all this nudity and have you seen the women in this fucking movie? You're complaining? You're complaining? You see Natalia's tits? Have you fucking seen them? That's not a complaint. I'm sorry, that's just not a complaint. I mean, unless you're somebody who's not into tits. But if you're into tits and you're complaining about fucking the porn, like the porn side of this film, come on. Come on. Oh, and you could tell that the dialogue in this movie was written by someone from my generation, because the guys in this use words like fag and retard towards each other, which is just, yeah, that's the 90s. It's just, those weren't derogatory slangs to us. They were never used towards anyone with like Down syndrome, mental deficiency, or fucking homosexuality. It was just never a thing. We never was like, oh my god, that fucking fag over there. Like, what is he doing with his boyfriend? What a fag. Never. Or like, oh my god, there's this kid with fucking like Down syndrome or something. Be like, what a fucking retard. Never. That would never happen. It was always like, that's fucking lame. Stop being a fucking asshole. Like, you're a fucking faggot. Shut the fuck up. You're a retard. And now that's just so frowned upon. And I get it because some people just ruin it for everybody and they have to use it towards the wrong people. And it's like, oh, come on. Don't ruin a great word. Don't ruin a great word. Yeah, some people will be offended by that. Oh my god, he thinks that's a great word. It is in the context when you use it correctly. Yes, it's a great word towards your friends when you're fucking, 15 years old. But I get it. Like, I get it. I still use it with my friends. I'm not going to fucking pretend I don't. I'm not going to say I'm with the times. When it's my group of friends and I know it's just us and no one's around, I'm going to be like, oh my god. Oh my god. You've offended my soul. And I'll never, ever be able to recover from this. As I've said a million times before, I feel like we put way too much stock in offense. Like, people are like, oh my god, you offended them. Gotta apologize. No, I don't. Like, let them be offended. That's okay. They'll be alright. They'll be okay. All is well. Anyway, like, to reiterate, unless you, like, legit offended them and, like, you're like sorry, like legitimately, like, oh fuck man, like I shouldn't have said that, like legitimately, like that was fucked up, what was I thinking, versus like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be offensive to them. Like, if I don't know something's offensive to you and it offends you, like I'll take note of that and try not to do it again unless I think it's ridiculous, unless I just think you're being absolutely fucking ridiculous, and I'll be like, fuck off, don't be around me then, because I don't give a shit. But moving back, it's like, oh, they're offended by that? Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to cut down on that, or like not do it again in front of them. But I'm not going to fucking say I'm sorry. It's just not happening because I'm not sorry. How am I still single? Holy shit, it's a fucking mystery, isn't it? Alright, so they get there to the hostel and they're watching Pulp Fiction for obvious reasons. And then they walk into... Now, roommates in a hostel, this is the whole premise of a hostel, right? You get roommates in your room that cuts down on the price, and it'd be weird, right? I mean, I'm sure some of you have done it, and some of you live in a, in a country or something where that's just a normal thing. But out here, what the fuck? You rent a room, it's your room, right? Now you pay through the fucking nose or the teeth or whatever the hell that saying is for it, but regardless, you get the room. But of course, no one's going to complain when they walk in and fucking Natalia and what's the other girl's name? Like, for some reason, my brain's saying it's Tatiana, but I don't think that's right. I don't know. But whoever the hell that blonde chick is, she's hot as fuck. She actually looks a lot like this girl named Fonda I know. It is not, though. It is not. Then Oli goes missing. They find this torture museum. And I love the guillotine ticket cutter that they have. I'm not really sure how they think that this Oli character that obviously doesn't end up being Oli. I don't know how they think that he gets past the ticket taker and through the whole thing, and they're like stopping to look at things when they're in there for him. Like, didn't they like go to the ticket taker and be like, hey, did you just see a guy walk through here with a, what is this? Icelandic jacket on? Which, come on, that's clearly Oli's jacket. Like 100%. At least they're wise to that. It's not like they're like, oh, like, sorry, we fucked up. It's obviously, just like similar to dude. Like, it fucking has his flag on it. It's Oli's jacket, 100%. Like, so they know something's wrong. But yeah, like, there's just no, like, he got past the ticket taker that fast. Maybe they thought he had a season pass to the torture museum in Bratislava. Sure, why not? Oli, by the way. Not the random guy it ends up being, but they think it's Oli. I don't know. I guess he went while they were sleeping and bought a season pass. A quick pass. And oh man, Oli is fucked when you see his body, and oh, poor Oli. I'm glad we didn't get to see that, because I wouldn't have wanted to see Oli tortured. Like, that would have been horrible to watch. As much as I love that guy, that would have been terrible to watch him. Watching Josh tortured, I mean, it's not fun to watch someone get tortured, to be honest. I mean, unless they're totally pieces of shit, like, legit deserve it. Like, people who are, like, you know, fucking raping little kids and shit. Then you're like, yeah, I want to watch their death. Like, I want to watch them brutalized. Then, you know, then it's fine. But, like, watching, yeah, Josh is a douchebag, but I don't want to watch him fucking tortured. That said, his death does not upset me anywhere near as much as if I had to watch Oli die. So, there's that. But watching his Achilles tendons get sliced, I feel like that's one of the few, gags in a horror movie where everyone in the theater basically in unison gasps when it happens. Like, that and the nails across the wall when the nails break backwards and shit. Like, there's certain kills, there's certain things. And there's not even kills, there's just injuries. But there's certain injuries that I feel like we all kind of agree on, where it's like, oh fuck, that's brutal. When he stands up and they just break and he goes immediately to the ground. This guy, man, I'm so glad. See, that's the whole, there we go. That's, yeah, furthering my point. Like, yeah, as much as I don't like Josh, I don't want to watch him tortured. I'm not going to get off on it. But the dude who does torture him, to watch him brutalized by Paxton at the end, and his face shoved in a toilet and his fucking fingers cut off, and it's the same exact fingers Paxton has cut off too, which is kind of cool. But yeah, to see him like push his head in and they pulls it up and he slits his fucking guy's throat as he like begs please, like, yes, like that I want to watch. I could watch that guy put in a room and torture for fucking 20 straight minutes of a film. So give me that torture porn all day long. And then I like when Paxton goes back to the room and he's not supposed to have been there again. So when he goes in the room, it's like a new set of hot chicks and they like walk past him and they say the exact same scripted thing that Natalia and the blonde chick said to them when they walked. That would be trippy. It's like straight up deja vu. It'd be like, what is going on here? And we find out that the people who come pay extra for Americans. I don't know. Is it because Americans are the most sought after pieces of shit on the planet? People are like, I just, these privileged little motherfuckers, I just want to ruin their day. They think they're so much better than everybody is. That's gotta be it, right? Why Americans, it was like $25,000 for an American, and then it was like $5,000 for like a Russian or something at the end of the list. I was like, damn, dude, we're like 5 times more expensive. Are we that fucking annoying? Like, I guess while I'm doing this review, there's a few people that are like, yeah, dude, I'd pay way more than that to shut you the fuck up right now. Why are you still watching? Why are you still watching? You're torturing yourself, okay? Record yourself, and then you have some torture porn to jack off to later. We even got the ball gag from Pulp Fiction in here. I'd be curious on if that's the exact same one Marcellus Wallace wears in Pulp Fiction. Wouldn't be surprised. Especially since Pulp Fiction makes an appearance in this film, and Quentin Tarantino obviously has involvement. I like that Paxton tries to take his fingers with him, and then those fingers get taken from him and burnt up. I'd be so pissed. He finds a cart full of bodies, and then this hunchback's job is just to burn bodies all day. You think your job is terrible. But this guy doesn't seem to hate it. Could you imagine they're just like fucking laying in there with your friend and he looks up and, Josh is just staring right at him and he's all flayed open. Terrifying. I mean, Paxton would never, ever, ever, ever be the same again. They pretty much do him a favor by killing him in the second one. They really do. I mean, it's just like, dude, you would be fucked for life. You think you would ever mentally recover from escaping from a place like that? And here's the sick thing, man. You know a place like this exists. That's what's the most fucked up thing about this movie. Like, I try not to do this very often, and I beg you not to listen to the next, 10 seconds here, but, this, well, probably longer than 10 seconds. I get so bummed out all the time if I just let my mind wander and think like, right now, as we sit here and listen to this, no matter what time you play this, it could be fucking 5 seconds after I upload it, or a year from now, 5 years from now, doesn't matter. So even if I'm long gone by the time you guys watch this video, there's someone out there, lots of people out there, that are in like sex trafficking rings and that are like locked in someone's basement right now and are being tortured and held against their will, and like thousands and thousands of people, maybe even millions. It's just, those are the kinds of things. It's like, I cannot allow my brain to focus on those things. I just can't do it. Like, those things will consume me. I will become a fucking wreck if I think about those things too much. Because I know it's happening. I know it's happening to little kids. I know it's happening, like, it's terrible. And people are like, please stop. And it's like, okay, I will. It's fucking horrible. And just to think like something like Hostel happens, and that you know something like this happens, and happened before this movie, for sure. It's terrible. Just awful to think a place like this exists. All right. When Paxton goes to the place, which, dude, I mean, I get it. He wants to go get his friend, but this is shady as shady gets. And when he gets there to the art show, you get a cameo, right? This is Takashi Miike. That's how you say his name. That says, be careful, you could spend all your money in there, which my brother and I have been saying that to each other forever. Ever since we've seen his movies, we still to this day quote that line. That is Miike, right? Miike? Say his name? Yeah. Which is cool to see. If I'm correct on that, I'm pretty sure that's him. I'm not even going to say a percentage, because I said something recently in a video and I was dead wrong. And I'm like, fuck, I hate when I do that, because you can't edit these fucking things after you upload them. It's so annoying. I don't edit my videos, period. We find out the police are in on it, of course, with all that money. $25,000. And this guy's like, you know, this dude, oh God, this guy who's like asking if he should use the gun and everything. He's like, yeah, no, fuck that. Like, I'm a badass motherfucker. Like, a person's tied, a little Asian girl is tied to a chair and you're blow torching her face. Yeah, you're a badass, dude. Wow, what a fucking awesome dude you are. Wow, you're just a force to be reckoned with, right? The end all be all of men. But anyway, it's just like, he's like going on about like, oh, I paid such good money for this and this and that. She's not even American, so they didn't even pay top dollar for her. And as far as that, like, you know, now in the second movie, things get a little more pricey. But in the first movie, that list was like 25 grand for an American, something like 10 grand for something, and 5 grand for something. So even if you're paying 25 grand for some rich guy to fly out in this, 25 grand, that's not that much money. To some rich asshole, that's like nothing. So if they were paying like $1 million, so the prices feel really low to me. For like what they're doing for these guys, kidnapping these kids, having to pay off these prostitutes, having to like all this shit. At least they let them get fucking laid beforehand. At the bare minimum, at least Paxton and Josh get to get fucked before they get fucked. So, like, there is something to be said for that. It's almost like, you know, what is it? The final meal before you go to the electric chair. You get some pussy before you die. I mean, there's worse things for sure, but I mean, obviously you'd rather get the pussy and then not die and not be tortured and have your fingers cut off and see your friend mutilated and all this. And that's just it. I think that the whole idea that these millionaires, these rich people, are basically so numb to the world at this point. He's just like, I've done everything. I fucked everything. I fucked a girl a couple nights ago. I can't even remember the color of her tits. Like, he's dead inside because he doesn't have to earn anything anymore. And I think there's something to be said for people who have to still earn things. Like the ultra mega rich who just can have anything they want at any moment. People will bend over backwards to give them anything. I do think some of those people become very corrupted by that. They're just like looking to experience something. Like they've lost that zest. Like they're just kind of like, I don't know. That's really not that interesting to me anymore. Like, I fucked, Playboy models, and I've flown fucking private jets across the world, and I've bought, houses, and I've bought whatever. Like, they can do anything, and they do. I think that there are people out there like that. They just have so much wealth for so long that they need something else, and killing somebody, taking it to that next level. I do think that unfortunately happens. I don't know how often. I don't think very often, but it does happen. At least in my summation, anyways. So I like that he kind of throws that in here. And my God, do you want that guy dead? I want that dude strapped to a chair. Let's see how fucking tough he is then. Let's see if he can live up to the elite hunting torture. The blowtorch to the face, and then he cuts her eye off, and it just starts squirting out freaking pus. Yikes. And then she jumps in front of this freaking train, which ends up saving his life. Not for very long, unfortunately, but, it does distract them long enough. And the gang, the kid gang in this, I love them, man. The first and the second one, especially that leader kid that's always asking for bubble gum and shit. I love that kid. And those little kids, I mean, people are like, oh, they're just kids. It's like, dude, you got 30 kids jump you. It'd be hard to fend them off, especially they had weapons and shit, and they're throwing bricks from above, and then they come and they smash these guys' heads in and all that. That's awesome, man. Just awesome. And then he runs over freaking Natalia and Alex and Alexei, right? And the blonde chick. I can't remember her name. But then you get to see freaking Natalia dragged under the next car that comes by. You can see her body dragging under the car, and then it comes out at the end as soon as they make the turn. That is amazing. And then, yeah, I mean, he goes in, and this guy's always boasting about his hands, and, people have lost relationship with their hands and this and that. He goes in there, and he cuts his fucking fingers off and slits his throat and just brutalizes him, and then you just get credits. It's like such a dark ending. It's like so fun and sexy in the first like half, and then it's just like pure black darkness in the last half. That's why I love this shit. It's just like it builds you up, buttercup, and then boom, just to let you down. It's crazy. Anyways, let's move on. So thank you though. Thank you to Robert. That's awesome, man. So let's you're getting 3 here, so let's move on.